Hello everyone and welcome back to ATM7 to the Sky. In the last episode we messed with the productive bees. We had a lot of fun setting these up even though they aren't super productive. But we did manage to automate the Allthemodium bee, the Vibranium bee and the Unobtainium bee, and of course set up processing from comb to ingot. Between the episodes I also added in this little basin here to recycle the liquid honey that we get. And that turns it into the honey blocks, which we can use for upgrades for our hives. I did gather a few more of each bee, mainly the Vibranium and the Allthemodium, although we still have the other two pens on each section to fill. And finally, I added in a little AE2 subnet here, which is mainly used to hold gene samples. And the subnet is connected up to all the breeding pens, which have pokey upgrades in there, so we can start collecting the samples. But we can also get things like the draconic combs, which we also need for the upgrades. And yeah, of course the subnet is also connected to our main net, so we can see all of these things when we open our main terminal here. I did also spend some time around the base just cleaning up some odd wires and things that were showing. Nothing too fancy though. But we're going to be stepping away from the bees today, I've got some other plans. Checking the recipe for the ATM star, there's a number of crafts here which require items from the mod FTB Industrial Contraptions. It's basically like the old IC2 mod. I think it's very important that we have something to work towards, so let's give ourselves a blank pin screen, and we can start to make a list and tick it off as we go. So we've got the FTB Antimatter, we have to make a nuke, quad uranium fuel rods, a nuclear reactor, which is not the same as the weapon, although I guess you could maybe use it as a weapon. And apart from that, I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, there is, yeah, the EV solar panel. That's already a lot. These are pretty heavily nested crafts. The rabbit hole goes pretty far down today. Let's jump in. So this is all going to start with the production of rubber. How do we get rubber? Oh, just smelting slime balls? We can do that very easily. We have some infrastructure set up already. I have a feeling lots of this is just going to be encoding recipes, but I did take a brief peek before the episode started and there is quite a lot of infrastructure we still need. So yeah. Yeah, this goes in our furnaces. With the rubber we can make various different cables. It goes from LV I think all the way up to IV, representing different tiers and max capacity of zaps, I think is what the energy unit is called in this mod. At least once this episode I'm going to call it EU, like just out of habit. There's been so many years of EU and now it's zaps. Anyways, once we have our rubber we can make LV cable just with some copper. And with the cable we can make our first electronic circuit. This also requires industrial grade metal which we can just get from blasting iron. This almost feels too easy when you've played GregTech, but we'll see. You can still trip up on the basics, especially when machines can explode, which I think is the case here. Alright, we are not going to spend the next 30 minutes encoding recipes, there's still a lot for me to do. Let's do something a bit more interesting though. And by interesting I mean Tinker's Construct. No, we just have to repair this Silk Touch pickaxe. And we need to go to the end, I think. No, not the end, the other. Yeah, this thing, the other. And we're looking for iron ore. I don't know if this one counts. Oh, the mining level isn't high enough. That's a problem. Okay, what are the chances we get Silk Touch first time? Fortune? Second time? Second time. Nice. Yeah, we don't need too much of this ore. Yeah, 12 should be more than enough. And the reason we gathered the iron ore is for the laser base from Industrial Foregoing. Along with the laser base, we also need laser drills. We can use multiple of these, I don't remember the exact number, let's get like 12 to start with. And we are going to be placing this thing in the end to target the specific ores that we need. So you know what, now that we have some unobtainium to spare, I think we're going to invest in a dimension card. We need 3 more of these infinity range cards. 4th one should already be in our access point. And 4 of these and some nether stars gives us the dimension card, which should allow us to access AE anywhere, in any dimension. Oh, what is going on over here? It's an endermite. That's funny. Oh, he just baited them all off the edge, look. Anyways, I went ahead and set up the laser drill here. I believe the laser drill base has to have access to the void or bedrock, depending on which dimension you put it in. And then 1 block above and below the laser base, we can put our laser drills, up to 2 blocks away from this thing. I think we can also put them in these spaces here as well. But we're also giving these things energy with the power energy cables. We'll definitely need a flux point to import RF. So the laser drills themselves take power, the ones around the outside. The one in the middle just takes work. Or it used to be called work, it's just a progress bar now. Basically every time these things progress to 0, they fill the progress bar on the laser base. What we're after here is raw iridium. We could have put this in the overworld technically, but the weight is much lower. This is only a weight of 1 in any biome. Whereas if we put it in the end, we get a weight of 8. We have to be between Y5 and 68. This is by default on 50, which is perfect actually. We can put on the white lens to target the iridium ore more effectively. I don't know what else we can get from this, but we're going to put an ender chest on top. We'll make sure to chunk load this place. And now we're making iridium. And before we leave this thing, why not throw in some speed tier 2s? Look at this. Oh yeah. And efficiency as well, does that do anything? It doesn't look like it makes any difference. It still uses 1000 RF per tick either way. Alright, 27, yeah, how do we process this thing? The Enrichment Chamber seems to be our best bet. We can turn 3 raw ore into 4 dust. That's all going to go into a drawer which is connected to a controller with a storage bus on. So now, what did we want iridium for? It was one of these things. Oh yeah, the solar panel. That's right, we have the EV solar panel pinned, which we do need antimatter for. We're going to come back to this later. So I encoded the recipe for the MV and the LV panel. Everything included is very easy to craft, it's just a matter of adding some recipes in. To get the HV and the EV that we need for the star though, we do need to get some FTB machinery up and running. And of course we will need some space for those machines. I had nothing to do with this, I promise you. Yeah, where are we going to place these machines? We need a new machine room, since we'll be working with zaps and not RF. Maybe under here? Yeah, honestly nothing super fancy, but I've set up the first iteration of our FTB room. FTB room? FTBIC room, that's going to be the short name. Alright, so the first machine we need for the HV panel is to make graphene. We have to make compressed coal, which means we need a compressor, right? Okay, we have our compressor. Let's hope we don't make an explosion with the first initial setup here. Let's figure out how this thing works. Okay, it looks like the old IC2 UI. The compressor, I believe... Oh, can we pick up with a pickaxe? Yes, we can. Maximum input is 32 zaps per tick, which I believe is LV. Yeah, LV cable carries 32 zaps per tick. Oh, something I didn't think about is we're using solar, right? And we're building this underneath. That probably wasn't smart. So I'm assuming we can just put the panels into the cable into the machine, and that should start to power it up, right? We can also make the MV panels, which output 8 zaps per tick. Wait a minute. 8 zaps per tick. Isn't that LV? Maybe this doesn't work the same way as GregTech. Yeah, so MV cable holds 128, LV is 32, so we can actually hook up an MV panel to this thing. Okay, we're learning. Let's get applied energistics over here. This is from our main net. Or no, this line is from our subnet here. So yeah, we have to add another P2P. We should still have some spare in our main controller. This will connect right over here. And we'll probably end up making the ceiling quite low over here so we can hide all these cables above. Yeah, so given what we've learned, I've taken some time and wired the room up. We got a pattern provider connected to the compressor. That should allow us to make these coal balls on request. The provider will automatically give the machine its inputs, and to eject we can use the ejector upgrade, which should send it back to the provider, and that should also mark the craft as complete in AE2. And then for power we just have a cable going up to these solar panels right here. We managed to fit them quite nicely in this little space. We've got room on both sides. Alright, so what else for the HV panel? Copper coil, which needs an iron rod. So last episode I actually set up this little create system with the rolling mills. I ended up cutting it out of the episode, but it's nothing super complicated. We have 2 pattern providers, one makes copper wire, and one makes iron rods. The ponder screen for the rolling mill shows this thing with 2 funnels on either side, or 1 funnel on either side I guess. However, you have to insert from the top. I think the ponder screen is wrong. Either way, this gives us the ability to make iron rods. That's going to go into the depot, and those are then ingested into AE2. Very, very simple setup. So then the iron rods can be made with copper wire, and that gives us copper coils. The copper coils we can use for advanced machine blocks. We still need carbon plates, which means I guess we need to get carbon fiber. Yeah, we haven't made this yet. So it's just coal dust, 2x2, and then carbon fibers, 2x2. The trader and phantoms all at once. Oh, this is story of my life. These guys just annoy me all day long. We have now also officially hit the cap on our molecular assemblers. All the parent providers are full here. Oh, and I missed a block here. I didn't notice this. But yeah, we should just be able to increase the length of this room and add basically double our setup that we have here. Alright, so we made some AE upgrades over there. It's looking a lot better as well. I tried to polish up that area. I don't know how much more expansion we'll need for interface slots, but yeah, I guess we've still got quite a bit to go for this pack. Anyways, I encoded the rest of the recipes for the HV solar panel. This thing produces 64 zaps per tick. And the HV one required the iridium, a bunch of alloys, but all the other stuff to make the alloys was basically free for us, right? Unfortunately, the guidebook for FTBIC is uncraftable in survival. I think it's just an oversight by the pack developers, but definitely something that needs addressed, I think. In any case, I refuse to cheat it in our survival world, so we're in a creative test world here. I want to check something for one of the upgrades. Our machines right now are very, very slow, so I want to try to find some way to speed them up. Yeah, right here, the transformer upgrade actually is what we want. It allows machines to accept higher voltage currents. Each one increases the voltage tier by 1. So that should mean we're no longer tied to using LV for the compressor, and we can plug in our HV solar panel here. So since this starts at LV, 32 zaps per tick. Next would be MV, which is 128, and then 2 transformers makes it 512, which is the maximum amount that HV cable can provide. Even though our solars aren't using that much, I just feel more comfortable making sure that since we're connecting HV cable, I can actually handle HV energy. No explosions. That is a good sign, okay. And since we're now able to feed this thing more power, it means that we can also give it overclockers, if I could spell. Yeah, the overclocker upgrades. These speed up the machine while also consuming more zaps. Although we do need coolant for these. IC2 coolant used to be lapis, right? It doesn't appear like there's a recipe, and we do need coolant, because coolant is how we upgrade our HV solars to EV, and the EV we need for the star. I did some digging around JEI. It seems that we have to fill with water first. The empty fluid cells is just made with tin ingots, and I want to see if we can use create for this as well. It looks like we can. Yeah, and then the cells of water we just craft with more tin, and that gives us the small cell. More tin gives us the medium cell, and then more tin and dense copper, which is another compressor recipe. I think we might end up setting up multiple compressors. So I started with the compressor additions. I added 3 more, making sure to give them the transformer upgrades and then plugging them in. We also give a pattern provider and ejector upgrade to each one. And then I just added some facades around the room, trying to clean it up as we went. I don't know what I would do without these things. Then I wanted to add some setups to craft the fluid cells for the coolant. I mean, sure, we could have used 82 fluid crafting, but it looks better if we do it like this. Just for symmetry, we add 4 surrounding a pattern provider. The spouts above are fed water with pipes on a sink. So the pattern provider gives the input items, and for the output, we can just add some item pipes underneath. And making sure to add a whitelist to only extract the filled cells. Then we can add a recipe, empty cell to filled cell. And it works. I cleaned up the room once again before moving on, and also added in the overclocker upgrades to our machines that we can now craft with the coolant. And after that, I expanded a bit further, this time for antimatter production. And once all of that is built, we are making antimatter. Check this out, this has only been like 10 minutes since I plugged this thing in, and we're already at 32. So this is an antimatter constructor here we've got in the middle. This thing will just make antimatter on its own, given enough zaps. I think it is a chance to output though, but we can increase the odds with the use of scrap, which we're making from reprocessors on the sides. So yeah, first of all, the reprocessors, we have to give this, well, it accepts MV current on its own. We have 1 transformer, so we can plug HV into this. And the HV right now is just plugged into 1 solar each on each side. Although I think eventually we'll maybe just fill this whole grass patch with EV panels, and that way we can actually add some transformers down here. That wasn't me. I promise you. They actually just spawn like that at this point now. So yeah, the reprocessors will take any item in here, and it has a chance to produce scrap when given zaps. We're feeding these reprocessors just with some igneous extruders making cobblestone. Those are fed on the input on the back, and then underneath we have some more item pipes. Although I just remembered now, we can craft these into scrap boxes, right? Yeah, we can. And I think it's more efficient to give the scrap boxes than just regular scrap to the reprocessor, or the constructor rather. So yeah, let's actually add a sequential fabricator in the mix here. We'll do a fabricator over the RF tools one, since this can automatically output, and that way we can put it where? we have power on the top and inserts on the side. Yeah, we'll put it on top, we'll move power, and that way the item pipes have to go into the fabricator. You're going to insert from the back, output to the bottom. We have to get the antimatter into the drawer below as a buffer. We can use another item pipe for this, I guess. We got to make sure we give the sequential fabricator power, and then we can just extend this IV cable that we have for the constructor. So the constructor right now is fed with 2 HV panels, so this IV cable is actually irrelevant. It's just so that it doesn't connect to this HV one down here. But yeah, I think all we need to do now is set the extract from all these reprocessors. That should send all the scrap into the sequential fabricator. Or maybe not. It's not going in. Oh, maybe we have to set the recipe. I think it's just a 3x3 craft, right? Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, and now it goes into the constructor. That should increase our odds of antimatter production. Nice. We can give these reprocessors overclockers as well, but of course that does increase the power consumption. And in fact, they're struggling here at nighttime. Yeah. Alright, not bad. Last thing to do actually is to, well, first of all, upgrade the drawer. And also put a storage bus on. How are we going to get AE over here? Because the AE cables is now above us. Everything is kind of flipped here. How are we going to extend that along? Okay, don't ask too many questions, but the wiring is done. We can see antimatter in our system. Okay, so where do we go from here? Let's get our pin screen nice and clean again. So can we get the EV panel from here? All we were missing was the antimatter, the large coolant cell. I think we can just add recipes for this now. Oh, it's so nice having all this molecular assembler space again. For the dense copper plate, we'll make sure we add 4 recipes. Since we have 4 compressors, this is backwards. There we go. Other than that, it's just the antimatter and block of netherite. We can manage this, no problem. Can we request the EV solar panel? Oh, we don't have the recipe for the block of netherite. Okay. Have it your way, Applied Energistics. No crafting CPUs. Well, I mean, I suppose these things are only 4K. We should probably do something about that. Oh, and we have the upgraded crafting storages in this as well. AE2 can now go up to 256. Oh, I want to play with some of these guys. So it's 364Ks to make 256. And I mean, these 64K cells are basically free, right? After the automation that we added last episode. Or 2 episodes back. Now then, do we have a big enough CPU to craft the bigger CPUs? Yeah, this is basically free. Let's upgrade them all. That little animation there is new as well, right? You guys see that? There. That is so cool. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the new interface textures or that, but yeah, or the new energy cell. I'm not a huge fan of those textures, but some of them, man, they really did some nice things with AE2. Oh yeah, just a little tip, you can actually reclaim the components from the storage cells if you shift right click. And also, unlike our molecular assembler setups where we have to pay attention to channels, our CPUs here are actually just one multi-block structure and therefore only count as one channel coming off this line, which means that we can also expand out the back here. And just doing that is a huge increase on the CPUs. So now we can pick up the EV solar. And while waiting for crafts, I also encoded the nuclear reactor recipe. So we can actually remove 3 things from our pin list here. Which leaves us with 2, and they kind of go hand in hand, the quad uranium fuel rod and the nuke. So I've been thinking about this a lot actually, how we're going to tackle this issue. You see, we need a lot of uranium. A lot of uranium. Not only is it used for the nuke, we also need a 5x compressed uranium block for the Philosopher's Fuel for the star, and we'll also need it to fuel a future nuclear reactor that we need for the nuclear waste. Right now we're sitting on 244k, plus a few ingots, plus a few thousand dust, and I have a sneaking suspicion that's not going to be enough for us. You may remember when we first set up ore processing, I mentioned that we missed a step. The first one being to dissolve in sulfuric acid to give us slurry, then we chemical crystallize for uranium crystals, and then we join the start of the process again for ore processing, and we can just import it into the system that we already have here. I hope that made sense, but basically what we need to do now is make sulfuric acid and melt some uranium. We're making uranium already from the sieves. Here. Alright, so it's been some time for me. I've been trying to do all the boring stuff, wiring up the room, and deciding the placement for all these machines. Also, it's probably worth mentioning that all of this is unnecessary. I mean, we have to make sulfuric acid, but we probably could get away with just buffing the sieve setups to get more uranium, or making the mystical agriculture seed. But we're going to stick with the principles from the beginning of the series and do everything the over-engineered way. It's more fun that way, I think. Alright, so we're going to start here on the right hand side. This is going to be our sulfuric acid line. Step number 1, sulfur dust. We already have over 1 million sulfur from sifting gravel. So what we have to do is send that into some pulverizers. That's going to create the dust for us. So we're going to pull the sulfur from this interface here. I'm kind of torn between using laser IO or Ender IO. Ender IO? I wish Ender IO was here. XNet, I mean. I think I'm actually going to switch to XNet. It's going to give us a bit more flexibility and throughput as well on the transfer rates. So we want connectors on all the machines. Actually, we should make sure they're advanced connectors for more throughput. We want the controller and also a flux point. We can connect all this blue connector together with some network cable. Also, I can hear those bees. That's going to be really annoying. Let's muffle those. And then first of all, in XNet, we want to make the energy channel. That's going to go from the flux point and just connect to every single machine. Then we request the sulfur inside the interface. We want to filter that inside the 2 pulverizers. For now, we just have 2 of each machine. Although we can stack this vertically. We actually have quite a lot of height room to work with. We can go above this if we need to. But the idea is this is going to serve ore processing and fissile fuel production for the reactor. So next we want an item channel. From the interface, extract 1 stack at a time and insert into the back of the pulverizers. And make sure we enable input from the back. We could also do this with XNet, but I think we're going to separate this cable out. We'll put output on the left hand side. So that's going to send all the sulfur dust in the drawer as a buffer. We definitely want to build buffers here, including for the chemicals and the fluids. We'll give the pipe some upgrades, as well as the pulverizers. Step 2, sulfur dioxide. All we have to do for this is send the sulfur dust into the chemical oxidizer. That's going to turn it into a gas. We can do that using the XNet controller. Ah, wait a minute, this isn't actually the back of the machine, because I placed this sideways. If you place it normally, it's going to end up like this, with this as the front. So actually, we're inserting it into the right-hand side. Now it should get sulfur, yeah. I just think the texture on the left here fits a bit better. It's a bit more symmetrical looking. Alright, so this has given us sulfur dioxide. We're going to buffer that in a chemical tank below. Again, using XNet, we should be able to set chemical channels in here. Yeah, mechanism.chemical channel. Alright, excellent. We're buffering sulfur dioxide. Step 3, oxygen. So we're making oxygen over here, if you'll remember. We're using water and electrolytically separating for hydrogen and oxygen, which is also used in part of ore processing. The plan is to keep oxygen production here, only to scale it, and we're going to scale it vertically as well. I made sure to leave some space above. We'll have to make sure we add some pressurized tubes on the side, since on the bottom machines here we're automatically sending the hydrogen into the tank below, but we can't do that on the ones above, right, because they're all on top of each other. And then oxygen will just stay on the back, and that can go into the existing chemical tank buffers for oxygen. As you can see though, it's empty, which is why we do need to scale this up quite a bit. The oxygen production has been scaled. This is getting quite crazy, honestly. I had to make sure to add a few more flux points on the back. This is a very, very power hungry system right here. But crucially, we are now gaining on oxygen. Which step are we on? Step 4, sulfur trioxide. Combine the oxygen and the sulfur dioxide. That's going to be in the chemical infuser, the next machine we have in the line. It should just be as simple as adding a new XNet channel and also importing oxygen from our ME interface. It should be the gaseous oxygen. This one here, since we have storage buses on the chemical tanks over there. Step 4.5, water vapor. We're skipping a machine here and we're going straight to the condensator. All we have to do with this is give it water and power, and I think we want to toggle this so it's decondensating. Actually, we're just about out of mechanism channels, so I'm going to do this on the side, probably using just pipes or something. Yeah, all we have to do is insert water, so we should just be able to do it like this. We also want to add in a buffer here for the water vapor. Step 5, sulfuric acid. Combine the water vapor and the sulfur trioxide, and that goes in the chemical infuser we just skipped. We can move everything around using XNet once again, and we'll buffer it in a chemical tank underneath. Let me set some filters. And once we do that, it's going to look something a little bit like this. I did make one slight change, just to save on the XNet controller channels, since I ended up actually running out of these things. Instead of using XNet for the extract, we just make sure that the tank is placed in between the two machines, instead of on the very bottom. And then we can just have the machines themselves extract automatically. But other than that, the logic is all the same, and we're making sulfuric acid. Very, very slowly. We'll worry about buffing the machines later on. But now that we got our acid, we can send it into these three machines here, the dissolution chamber, the chemical washer, and the chemical crystallizer. Well, you know what I mean, the sulfuric acid only has to go to the dissolution chamber, along with the raw uranium. I think once again we use XNet. Yeah, I think we'll use XNet for this. We have an interface below. That is going to be used to supply the uranium. We can also use that interface to supply the sulfuric acid if we put a storage bus on this tank. Make sure we set this to extract only. But yeah, once we give this a channel, we can just hook it up underneath here. We should see sulfuric acid in our system now. We don't? Wait a minute, am I going crazy? Does it appear in the interface if we recall it here? This one? This one? Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. Why is this not working? It has to be something obvious. Oh, I hate when this happens. It makes you question yourself so much. We have channels here, right? Yes, we have 25. And this is all dense cable up the middle. I also made sure to set the side on the gas tank as output on the left. Let's try input and output on the left. I don't think that makes a difference though. And eject on. This interface here is definitely on, right? We can request red terracotta, just not the gases. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. No way. Breaking, replacing it works. Now we can see. Oh my god. Just don't ask any questions. It's probably better. Okay, we got our sulfuric acid. Let me set the filters here. Well, well, we did it. We got our hands on the weapon. You think we should set it off? Here? I'm kind of afraid to place it just in case we can't remove it again. Let's maybe not do it here. Although I do kind of want to set one of these off just to see what it's like. I'm a little bit scared. Maybe we should do it in the Twilight Forest, and I'll probably make a backup first. Alright, what do we not want to exist anymore? Kind of want to do it away from the portal, just in case we get stuck here. Okay, I have no idea what to expect with this. Like, how big is this thing going to be? Is it bigger than a Draconic Evolution fusion reactor? Okay, just light it and run. Light it and run. It's flashing. How long do we have? I want to keep it in render distance, but I don't want to get, like, absolutely destroyed by it. Oh, that was disappointing. Come on. Ah, is that it? Even gives us a little chat message. Interesting, it spawns a bunch of cobblestone underneath as well. Wait a second, what is this stuff? Yeah, a little bit disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of hyped that up for nothing, but... Anyways, yeah, I've been messing with the system for quite a while. We got a number of improvements added, and I also implemented the chemical crystallizer here for uranium. It's actually a lot slower than I thought it would be, even though it's maxed out. So I may actually duplicate the system on the other side, and that'll also give us some symmetry as well. I also upgraded all the machines making sulfuric acid, added a number of pulverizers extra on the back here, and honestly the rates right now, even though it's consuming it for the crystals, it's actually not so bad. We're getting like a bucket per second, per 3 seconds maybe? It's hard to tell, but we are excess on sulfuric acid, which means it's buffering here. I also slightly adjusted ore processing. I noticed that some of the slots in the purification chambers were being locked on all of one type of ore. So I did try to implement an XNet system to limit the items that were allowed inside the purification chamber, but because of the way these shards work, they all count as the same item, so you couldn't have a limited item filler. So instead I've just done what we did before and used one machine type per ore, and that should work out better for us in the long run. I noticed there was a disproportionate amount of ores that were being processed. Like, we only have 55,000 iron. That can't be right. Whereas we have like 500,000 lead. I think it was getting locked on lead before. I guess the last thing though is these cannon machines that we added. So these take uranium dust and the fluid cells, which we automated earlier on the depots. Those combine together for the fuel rods. And the fuel rods we just craft into Joule and then quad. The quad we use for the Nuke and also for the Philosopher's Fuel. Which means we can also unpin the last 2 items for today. Not this one though. But we are going to wrap up today's episode. I'm not really sure where we go from here, to be honest. It's either going to be some magic stuff, Ars Nouveau, which is not a mod I've played with before, or nuclear reactors. I haven't quite decided yet. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode.